Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports podcast. We are here to pay the bills. It's the Picasso's Pay the Bills post-game show as the Buffalo Bills are, just embarrassed, mollywopped. There's a lot of words we could come up with. Mollywopped was the one I was waiting to get out. 30-13 by the Miami Dolphins today in Miami. One of the worst Bills losses I think we've all seen in a long time. Add on to that the New England Patriots pull it out in Tampa and get the win 28-23. And it's a very bad, no good day to be a Buffalo Bills fan. We're going to get into a lot of it. I'm going to start with Ajay and then come back around. Ajay, as he sips his Arnold Palmer here and just tries to get ready to go. Okay. How are you, what's your first reaction from this game? Like, take it any which way you want to go. How are you feeling right now? What do you think? What do you think about the season going forward, I guess, after today?
Yeah, I mean, I'll first and foremost, I'll say I'm utterly shocked that this happened. They came off 40-9 beatdown at Carolina, where I thought they looked, really good. The offense struggled to get going, but once it did, they really took off. And then last week, the offense comes out, looks great in the first half. The Bills get a huge shot on 4th and 3. Bills go down and score 21 points in the first half. And, they kind of stalled in the second half, but they did enough. They had that late touchdown drive. So I was feeling really good, going into this week. I thought we've gotten past in years past, this team just, recovers and they figure it out. Now they still can, and there's still that potential down the line, but it's very frustrating. You go in as 9.5-point favorites to a divisional team that you haven't really lost to all that much with Josh Allen. You do nothing at the trade deadline to make your team better. So fans are already upset going into this game about that. And what do the Dolphins do? They take away James Cook. And what have the Bills not proven to do when other teams take away the running game? They can't do anything because they don't have the talent on the outside. And then when you lose a Dalton Kincaid, who again is a guy that I don't want to talk about him. I think he's a good player, but these injuries continue to happen with him. He's one of the least durable guys. Last year, he played all year with an injury, was not the same player. This year, injuries keep happening. You're relying on him to really carry the wide receiver room, and he can't even stay healthy. So all in all, it's just very disappointing. And I think that I think it is affecting Allen, and I think you're seeing it. You can critique the fumble where he, they do the tush push and he's trying to get the extra yardage. I think in the moment there, when you're carrying a defender, you're down 10 points at that point and you're trying to shift the game. Trying to critique that and saying he should have just went down, I think is a little bit of a stretch. I think in that moment that's easier said from a viewing perspective, but the throw to Dawson Knox was terrible. And again, just the where the turnovers happened, when the turnovers happened, is more so the issue. Both in the red zone, James Cook, a costly fumble. That's your best player, this year on the offensively. He makes a mistake. So the offense just very bad. I count that for 6 points today. I know they finished with 13, but that was a garbage Jackson Haas touchdown. They scored 6 points against the Miami Dolphins team that allowed 27 points per game. They were down Rasul Douglas, who was playing, as their top corner this year. And they couldn't do anything. They traded Jalen Phillips away at the deadline. It's just mind-boggling that this offense, it's so inconsistent. You just never know what to expect. And if teams take away the run, it's just not going to get figured out because they do not have the talent. And at this point, Josh Allen, what was the best play of the day? Josh Allen running around, he's always trying to direct traffic, right? He's leaving the pocket, trying to tell people where to go. And it just couldn't, no one's ever getting open. There's no one doing anything. He keeps he's directing these guys to go places and it's not working. The best play of the game was him running around for 10 yards and, heaves it down the field to, I think, Curtis Samuel or Khalil Shakir, maybe for a 20 or on 3rd and 16 for an 18-yard gain. That was your best play. So I'm discouraged. I'm upset. They have Tampa coming in next week, who's going to be ticked off coming off a big home loss to New England, who looked really good today. And just all in all, you look around the AFC, it's just so wide open, and the 1 seed seemed like it was a real possibility again. And now we're sitting here at 6-3 with probably, in my opinion, I know people say the Jags game was very disappointing, but I'm going to say this is probably the most disappointing loss for me, just because you haven't lost to a divisional opponent by this much since 2018, and you're on the road against a team that's utterly has no reason to win. They're probably going to fire. They just fired their general manager. They're probably moving on from Mike McDaniel after the season. Tua's played awful. It was just all in all just very disappointing and upsetting. And I think they're a playoff team still, but I still just doubt what this team can do when it counts.
So maybe that was long-term play by Sean McDermott, not wanting Mike McDaniel to get fired. Hey, we're going to give them a win over the Bills so they keep McDaniel, and then we'll be able to try to beat them in the future. When you're thinking short-term, they're thinking long-term. No, but seriously, like that was horrible. That was horrendous. Like this offense, like I know I normally stand up for them because of the points per game and a lot of
Just run the ball.
Like they were horrible today, and there's a lot of reasons to it, and you can't just say it's one thing or another, which is really even the more frustrating thing about it. And the defense plays a role in it too. Number one, the defense falls behind 13-0 by not getting a stop on the second and third Dolphins series, which forces the Bills into more of a passing attack. The Bills' offensive line did not block well for James Cook. James Cook, maybe he was a little bit off dealing with his injury. Then Joe Brady is not scheming anybody open, and Bills receivers don't have the ability to get open. And then you have Josh Allen realizing that he doesn't have a run game to support him today. He doesn't have receivers getting any separation. He doesn't have an offensive coordinator scheming anything open. And then he's trying to be Superman and trying to do too much. And the crazy part about it is, even though that game felt over when it was 16-0, if the Bills don't fumble it with James Cook, if the Bills don't throw an interception in the end zone, say they get points on both of those. You're talking about a 16-13 game in the fourth quarter. So at the same time, as bad as the Bills' offense was, they kind of killed the team in even more ways than even their production, because their turnovers ended up having a horrible impact on them late in the game. And you're right. The QB sneak, like Josh is just trying to get extra yards. He's trying to do anything for the team. But his interception and his fumble were huge moments in this game too. And you saw as soon as the Bills turned it over, the defense allows an explosive play. Basically just they knew the game was over. They let a long one, and then it was effectively over. What we have to start talking about right now, and I know the rest of the fan base has been talking like this for a couple years now, but I was a little bit more patient considering that they went to the AFC Championship and had a chance to go to the Super Bowl last year. I think we need to start having the conversation that it might be time for the Bills to consider making sweeping organizational changes to their head coach and general manager. And it sounds crazy to do that heading into a new stadium, but maybe that's the perfect time to do it going into the new stadium, where the stadium can reflect a fresh start. Because as much as I understood the logic of everyone eats, and I would tell people the Bills addressed receiver, you just probably don't like how they addressed it. It's clear now that their philosophy at receiver has not worked out, and it has killed them as an offense to the point where they don't run the ball at an extremely high level. They are in danger against very mediocre teams. Miami is a very mediocre team. To lose against a team like Miami and Atlanta in the same season, this is no longer the Bills where they would lose close games to tough opponents and maybe they would make a mistake late in the game. This is a Bills team that is getting trampled. Like, there was a 2-3 year period where the Bills just didn't lose blowouts. Like, I consider the Atlanta game a blowout. I considered this game a definite blowout. And to me, that shows that they're going in the wrong direction with some of what they're doing. And I would say if they end up as a wild card, because I still feel confident they'll make the playoffs, given that really there's 8 teams fighting for 7 spots. I guess if Baltimore gets back in it, 9 teams fighting for 7 spots. But if they fail to make the playoffs, automatic, I fire Bean McDermott the day after the season ends. If they get in as a wild card and they don't make it to at least the divisional round, automatic, I'm firing them the day after they lose. You get to a divisional round or championship game, it gets a little iffy on how you do
fire
it. How you do it. No, but it becomes a little iffy. Like, were you building in the right direction? Did you find something, or did you luck into that race? But at this point, I think I'm in favor of making sweeping changes with this organization. And it's clear they don't have enough on offense unless they basically scheme up a great game. Like they schemed up against Kansas City perfectly. But to then respond with this type of effort against a Miami team that was without their top corner, like that's just a pathetic performance. And I really think it's Bean on down. Bean would be the number one guy I would put at blame right now. And McDermott definitely deserves blame too, but Bean is the number one guy in all of this.
Well, and it keeps getting brought back up, and we have a tweet that keeps coming back up. But you have the Bean crash out on the radio earlier in this year, and it became the topic of conversation throughout the whole offseason, throughout the summer, and into this season. And then we're at this point where we're all sitting here like, yeah, this is one of the worst wide receiver groups in the league, maybe the worst without Josh Palmer out there. And you just wonder, like, out of all these things, you got, Landon Jackson, of course, unfortunately gets hurt today, and we don't know what his status is going to be. But a guy in the third round in a year where you need to get cheap talent to contribute right away, a guy who can't even get on the field. There's a lot of examples of that. Even though there's examples of hits too, there's examples of guys who haven't been able to get on the field or haven't been able to make an impact in the middle rounds where you really have to hit on some of those guys, not to be stars, but to be quality guys. And then you have to look at the play of Bernard and Benford, who are guys that got contracts over the summer. It's like, oh yeah, we got our core on defense. And Benford didn't play today, but he has been not up to his, level that he played last year. Bernard not up to the level that he's played in years past. There's a lot of questions along the whole roster. And we talked about it even before this game for weeks about the lack of blue chippers on this roster and who are the elite talents. You got Josh Allen, you got James Cook. Where else can you really point to that on this roster? And all of that comes back to the GM and everything down. And I think that's I think it's fair to, at this point, if this team with Josh Allen, who's supposed to be at the peak of his powers and the prime of his career, is a team who even just be like, and I know part of this is an uncontrollable, like New England being 8-2, New England ascending a little bit faster than anybody else thought they would, is something that they didn't anticipate, right? Like even if you would have thought New England was going to be good this year, you would have thought they'd be 6-3, 7-3, have 4 losses by now. Like they've won all the games they're supposed. They lose a horrible game to the Raiders week 1. New England has looked like world beaters since then, even if it's against an easy schedule. It really has been unfortunate for that turn of luck for the Bills more than anything. But man, like it's just the lack of options that they can turn to in the season. And like you said, with the scheme and everything else offensively, it's a lack of creativity, but also I don't know what else they can do at this. If you don't have there's a point where it's Jimmy's and Joe's, but also if you don't have the Jimmy's and Joe's, you got to try some different stuff. It doesn't look like this offense has evolved throughout the season. Like, and it really looks like they're trying to do the same stuff and attack teams the same way they have all year long. And that the first thing is, if they can't run the ball, they can't do anything. All 3 of these losses, if they've been shut down in the run game and there's no counter after that. And Miami was daring them to pass the ball down the field today. Even the short stuff that the Bills were able to, connect on, they're getting tackled right away or getting hit, within 4 or 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. It is just a failure on. It's impressive to create the elite run game and what they've been able to do offensively that way, but it's a failure across the board to not have to be a team that claims complementary football across the board and not have any options to go to. And I know Palmer's hurt and Kincaid goes out in this game, and who knows what that does to this passing offense. It's just a failure for this quarterback, who I can imagine he's not playing well. He's pressing. I think that we can all agree on that. But how much of that is because he knows he doesn't have any options and is looking towards the end of the year like it's not going to get better. Yeah. And the more tape that they get on this passing offense, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get harder. When you start playing only good teams in January, what's that going to look like? And it's not even – and then you have a game like today where it's not even a good team. Now, mind you, Miami fired their GM. Like, this is basically Miami's – back against the wall, kitchen sink game. Like, they came out motivated. They looked like they were hungry in this game, and the Bills did not look motivated, did not look hungry at any point in this game. So you have to give them credit for showing up and playing the way they did. The Dolphins, I mean, like, just keeping this thing on tracks. You wouldn't blame the Dolphins for just rolling over at some point in the season. But man, you're the Bills. You look at this day, how important this day could have been, trying to keep pace with New England and playing a team that you've dominated in the Josh Allen, Sean McDermott era, and to come out, not even just lose, but come out with that type of performance is just, I think it's completely fair, Mike, to ask the questions about what the organizational structure looks like going forward, because this is a failure from top to bottom to have a game like this. Like, this isn't just a game that just happens. The season's been building to a loss like this. And it feels, particularly worse, Ajay, after beating the Kansas City Chiefs last week, like getting a win over Kansas City. You're on top of the world, and then you have this game. Like, how does it even happen? How are we even here?
Never as good as you think, man.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about the defense too in like this game, like, because I know people are going to say, well, the defense played well enough for them to get back in the game. The Bills have been front runners for years. They've been a team where they get out to big leads and then they create takeaways. And if we're being real, in order to, when you don't have the explosive passing game, and I know they still generate explosive plays in the passing game, but they don't have the downfield threat. They don't have the ability to quickly come back in games that they're trailing by double digits because they don't have that vertical threat. So when they fall behind 13-0, it puts them in a big hole. And the reason why I have finally gotten to the point where I am struggling with this management team is this. They went all in on the everyone eats the last 2 years. They've gone all in on the running game, and they have re-signed numerous defensive players to long-term extensions that are going to be part of the future. So you don't have a ton of cap space. You don't give yourself the maneuverability to really be as aggressive because you don't have the room financially to be aggressive. And then when that means you kind of have to keep your draft picks in future years because you lack depth in certain areas. And when I think about it, what has Miami typically tried to do against the Bills in recent years? They try to throw the ball all over them. It's been Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They don't even have Tyreek Hill right now. The Dolphins just finally wised up. They finally said, you know what, we're going to run the ball on this Bills team. We're just going to run all over them. And it's just, that's the disheartening thing, is the Dolphins used to be the fast team that they didn't have the physicality or the ability to really push teams around. The Bills just got pushed around by a finesse team today. Now, that's a little concerning to me. And it's just like both sides, the offensive side, like the Bills offensive line couldn't protect. The Bills defensive line couldn't stop the run. It just all around.
They couldn't pressure.
So what that tells me is, and like, yes, we can talk about the receivers not getting open. We can talk about the offensive coordinator. And yes, the Bills offense was horrible. But even the one drive they had going to start the second half, it took them 9 minutes to even get into goal-to-go situation. Even if they score there, it's not like anything's coming easy to them. So it's getting to the point where it feels like this is a pivotal moment in that they're going in the wrong direction. Now they could beat Tampa and Houston the next 2 weeks. They could be 8-3, and then we're like, oh, they're back on track. But I think I've gotten to the point where I believe if they're ever going to get the most out of Josh Allen, they're going to have to pursue some changes within the house. And I don't know if Terry has the guts to do it, but I think that's the only way they'll get to where they need to get to.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to come down to what this Bills, how they respond. And I think that, again, to Mike's point about being a McDermott, it's hard. It's hard for me because I've liked being McDermott. I wasn't checked out really after 13 seconds. I wasn't checked out after the 2022 loss to Kansas City or the Cincinnati. That was just, I think, an emotional roller coaster, if I'm saying the years right. Then they lost to Kansas City. at home. And then that's when I kind of started to question. But then last year they lose all the talent, but they still make an AFC championship with that team. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of back on board, right? And they're kind of returning a lot of the same players. But I think philosophically, it's just like Mike, you say, you said the point about the 9-minute drives, but like that's what we've preached about this offense and what they're supposed to be doing.
Not down 16 points. Like, it's okay to do that when you're in a close game or you're leading and you're trying to put a team away. When you're down 16, you need quick offense. And that's why I'm concerned, AJ, because
they can't even do it when they need to.
When they need to, they can't even do it. It's one thing to say, okay.
Which is always my point about the passing game.
But
they
couldn't
do it when they needed to.
We didn't need to see it because they weren't in situations where they really had to go away from.
When we've had to, have they?
They've had one or two games, like against Baltimore, they did. They were able to put it together. Like against Atlanta, they didn't, but there was outliers. You had no Kincaid or Josh Palmer, so there was a little uncertainty. Like, if you have your guys, can you do it or not? This game, I guess they had Kincaid until they didn't have him, and it just looked like they had no answers either way. So, I mean, if Josh Palmer comes back in a week and then he looks great, like, okay, we can change the conversation. But right now, they don't have it. They don't have it.
Yeah. The problem is this: Brandon being counted on Keon Coleman, a second-round pick who showed a little bit of promise. Like I think after that Seattle game when he had they threw that fade up to him against Streakwell and he came down with it. They went to him on back-to-back plays. I felt pretty good about him. Then he got hurt, and then he kind of, fizzled out, excuse me. And then that was that. And then going into this year, looked great in training camp. So they were projecting that he was going to be that guy. I think at this point, he hasn't become that guy. So there's one guy that you didn't expect to be, you expected to be good, and he just hasn't been. Khalil Shakir, I think he's a good slot receiver, but is he like a high volume receiver that, I mean, I don't know. What is he? Is he a good wide receiver one? Is he a guy, is he even a wide receiver one because he's in the slot? And then you sign Josh Palmer, a guy that's been a wide receiver 3 throughout his career. And I guess you could say he's in that same role, but I'd much rather have Josh Palmer be the wide receiver one at this point when he gets back than a Keon Coleman, and Keon Coleman see way less volume. So I think the Bills just tried to get this group of guys that had some production in the NFL together and said, okay, you're just going to play. There's not going to be really any roles, and we're just going to figure it out. And I think that has failed them because they have failed. The collection of guys that they've tried to find just hasn't gelled and hasn't worked. And I know it's funny saying that because they made the AFC Championship together with the same group. But it's just this year you're really seeing the holes with how that's kind of formulated and what that kind of idea and philosophy was, and it's frustrating. It really is frustrating.
And it makes you, and that's the question is it's not that much of a different group. Maybe Mac Hollins is just, the glue that this specific.
He had 100 yards today.
Needed, yeah, had 100 yards. It is what it is there. The thing is with Allen too, it's something we noted very early on, and there's questions if you want to say whether this is how the Bills should be running the offense or not, right? Let's go from there. But it's something we noted starting in that Saints game is that they wanted to be. The Joe Brady offensive dream for this Bills team was be able to run the rock whenever they wanted to. And if they couldn't, they were going to rely on Allen making smart decisions, short passing game, and then hopefully those things open up your play action game later on. First couple weeks when they looked like world beaters, didn't need to open up the passing game that much, really, right? They're running all over teams. Allen's making smart decisions. They're getting good yak from everybody, and they've still got good yak from everybody the whole year. But Allen starts pressing a little bit. Teams start taking away those easy buttons, especially on second and third downs where the Bills were getting into second and third and longs more often than they had been in years past. They're getting more conservative on. The Bills used to be, before Joe Brady, used to be one of the teams that passed on first down more or as much as, in the top 5 as anybody else in the league. This year, they're way down on that list. This is just what they wanted to do schematically. And Allen, at some point in that Saints game and then beyond, it's not just him not deciding to do it. Teams started taking away the easy stuff, and they've never pivoted. That's what it's felt like with me from Joe Brady, is that it feels like we talked about it earlier in the season, like, oh, the offense will evolve as the year goes on. They're saving stuff for later in the year, all this other stuff like that.
Yep.
It just never felt like they've done that. It feels like they just like, we have our fastball, we have our AB punch, combo that we're going to do, and we're going to do that all season long and hope that it works. And teams have caught up to it. And you see a team like this where it's the second time. This is the first time they saw a team for the second time this year was Miami. Miami saw how they attacked them in game 1, and Miami was all over it. Miami sold out to stop the run. They made sure that you couldn't get the yard after catch on the screens and on the short crossers and everything else. And yes, the Bills were able to push the ball down the field once or twice. And if you just look at the box score, I know it's a lot of garbage time. People will be like, oh, well, Allen had 300 yards and they were able to, but like, if you watch the totality of this game, there was no rhythm in this offense because there's been no adjustment from Joe Brady schematically on how to attack these teams. And there's no counter when the James Cook button is out, there's no counter. And when you don't have a counter with Josh Allen at quarterback, it's like, it's a baffling thing. It's making me question where are we at with Josh Allen at this point? And that's why like this blame pie is so hard to kind of like figure out with who's at blame most. Like, is it Allen? Is it the receivers? Is it the scheme? Is it everything else? Is it coaching? Is it Bean? Whatever it may be. But man, they're not putting he's not making the superhuman plays like he has been in years past. Maybe he is losing his mobility a little bit. Maybe I'm not saying completely, but maybe it's
has the players to make the. I don't think he has the players like he used to that can get out like watch Jake. I want you to watch all 22 of all the times Allen scrambled out of the pocket, and I want you to watch Keon Coleman and tell me what you see because I won't be able to watch it. I'll get back to your point, but I want to give you that.
But I think that's part of the issue. Go ahead, Mike.
Isn't it concerning though if you have a quarterback like Josh Allen that can run the way he can run, and your receivers aren't getting open, and you have a good running game, but your running game is getting stuffed. You know what that I would be doing? I would be running Josh Allen more than. Mm-hmm. So that tells me I do believe that Josh Allen might be a step slower. I'm not saying that it's obvious. No, AJ.
It could be like
I know it's 29 years. It's just crazy. I mean,
you laugh at it, AJ, but let's be real. Like that is the logical thing you would do in this situation, and they're not doing it at all.
Maybe they just want to protect him. They don't want him to get hurt.
I don't care about protecting him right now.
Maybe that's the philosophy, though.
They don't have other answers. Have to. They're not even trying to scheme things up in the run game for him. Like, to me, like, I'll just be real. Like, you saw Josh Allen run. Maybe the stats, I know the stats are similar to previous years, so maybe it's just my eyes failing me. But if you really want teams to like open things up a little bit, use your quarterback. Like, you run him a little bit more. Confuse them with their eyes. They're not doing it. In the playoffs every year, the Bills go to QB power. They go to all of these different things with Josh Allen running it. A lot of the biggest plays you've seen with the Bills in recent years have been Josh Allen runs. And that's why he's always been so dangerous improvising. Think about it. If you have a quarterback that can run it for 20 yards downfield, what are you scared of? You're scared of the run. So then guys get open. They leak open. If your quarterback ain't running it at the same, you're not going to have guys leaking the same. If they're not as scared of the quarterback running the same, it's going to have an impact. I'm telling you, man, they're not designing things for him as much. In that one play, everybody was talking about the Bills getting too cute on the 4th and 1. It was close to the same exact concept that they did last week against Kansas City on the 3rd and 2 that worked perfectly. It was a play action, roll out to the right. Your first thought is get James Cook open. And if somebody covers James Cook, then you have a lane to run it. And Miami covered it perfect, which is why Allen had to go downfield. But normally in the past, like if we're dissecting Allen touchdown runs now versus what they were like 4 or 5 years ago, they are different. Allen gets like 80% of his touchdowns now on tush pushes. When he was a rookie, when he was a second-year player, when he was a third-year player, he was getting touchdown runs from like 10 yards out, 7 yards out. We're not seeing as much of that version of Josh Allen lately. And if you don't have receivers getting open, I think that's what you need to do. But they don't want to waste it against the 2-7 Miami Dolphins, who they feel like they can win even in spite of their injuries. Well, know what? They're not good enough right now to beat anybody in spite of injuries. And like that's the problem. They, I think, in-house are still thinking of what are we going to do in January. And right now I'm saying they're not going to get to January if they don't switch it up and start treating every opponent like it's the fucking divisional round.
I think a lot of, sorry to cut you off, Mike, but organizational hubris. Like that's what it comes down to. And people were like, listen, is Brandon Beane not going after a receiver because it's his ego and all this other stuff? Like, I think the ego it goes throughout the organization with what you were just saying. Like they walked into this game today thinking that they could just step in there and beat Miami and not put in whatever effort level they wanted to put into. And you're exactly right, Mike. Like
punting on 4th and 1 to open the game. Like, I don't care you're at
that was huge. They failed a 4th and 1, and they punted, and then they didn't pick up that.
That already up a 90-yard drive.
Too much faith. They had too much faith that this was going to be just another Miami game. And then next thing you know, Miami just pound you, and then you give the ball back to them, and then they go deep, and then you're sitting there 10 minutes into the game, 15 minutes into the game, like we're down 13-0. And you're like, our whole entire strategy for the game is out the door. Like, I'm with you, Jake. There's too much. We're the Bills. This is what we do. We've always been successful doing it. And I think they have to start realizing the gap between them and everyone else is not what it typically has been the last 5 years. And if they don't start treating every game like it's an important game, they're gonna find themselves sitting outside, because I know right now Baltimore is at 4-5, but Baltimore's about to go on a run with Lamar back.
Yep.
And you have Jacksonville at 6-3, and then
they ended up losing.
They blew it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big
huge.
break. But so like I still think this team is going to get there. But like, what does getting a 7 seed or a 6 seed do for this team? Like, I don't know, man.
Well, and we were coming into this week talking about being a half game out of the 1 seed, and then you look at all the results after today, and now we can't even realistically talk about the 1 seed until maybe mid-December if this team gets hot in the next month or so. But it was basically the worst possible day. If you had any hopes for that from Buffalo, basically it is the worst possible day it could have went. Denver gets the win on Thursday, Indy gets the win this morning, pulls out in overtime, New England gets the win, and the Bills lose. Like, that's basically out of the window at this point. And you don't control they do control their destiny for the playoffs, but they don't control their destiny for the AFC. It does feel like the most likely scenario is 5 or 6 seed if they do what they're supposed to do down the stretch. But our guy Carson mentioned it here. Look, this stretch coming up with the way the team's playing right now. You get the Tampa team coming off a loss this week at home next week. That's not a guarantee. Going to Houston, which I would assume they would hope Stroud's back by then on a short week. A team that has looked pretty good since starting off pretty slow. That defense I know they let up a ton of points today, but they were playing pretty good defensively. And one of those touchdowns was a punt return for Parker Washington in that game. Go to Pittsburgh, who Pittsburgh's defense is looking pretty good. We'll see what they do tonight against the Chargers, but that could be a team that you're battling for a wild card or position with later on. Cincy, who freaking knows what Cincy looks like? But since we know Cincy can put up points, can the Bills score with a Cincy team? And then it's a New England game. Like, it's a really tough stretch here. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills go 4-1 in it. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 1-4 in it with the way that they've looked right now. Like, all those like you said, Mike, you can't go into any of these games just assuming anything anymore. This is now, it might be a little too preliminary to say these are all must-win playoff football games, but man, like, if you're not going to start treating it like that now, then I think it is just that hubris of thinking that you guys are going to figure things out and just get healthier down the stretch and everything will fall into place the way you want it to. This feels like a different situation than even the 6-6 year a couple years ago. you felt like that team could just turn a switch and start being able to do things. I just don't see I don't know what switches they could pull and why you wouldn't have tried to pull them already with the alarming signs you've seen from this year.
I just want to respond with a quick point. I'll let AJ go off with his thoughts after. I think you just hit it on the dot. That 6-6 team was frustrating because a lot of those losses were games that they handed to opponents. Like they would put up 400 plus yards. They would get the ball up and down the field, but they would just make the most egregious turnovers, and they would have too many men on the field for like a missed field goal by Broncos. Like it was just like, what are you doing? This feels different because these losses, it's not the Bills necessarily eating, like it's not the Bills defeating themselves. It's the Bills getting handled by inferior teams, which that is why it should be concerning, because when you're the better team and you're finding ways to lose, you go to the complementary football and everyone eats and all of that because you're like, okay, if we just protect the ball, we're not going to lose these games. We're going to win more often than we don't. When you start losing games by double digits to a 2-7 Miami team, to a 3-6 Atlanta team, it shows either your strategy or your talent level isn't where it needs to be. And that's not to say like the Bills can't win 10, 11 games. Like there's a lot of teams that are average talent that find a way to do that. But the Bills have been elite for a 5-year period since 2020. And I think right now what you're seeing is a non-elite Bills team that is no longer that tier 1 team. Like they can look like it when Josh Allen's rolling. But when Josh doesn't have it going because of the run game struggling or the receivers not getting open or Brady not scheming things, this is now a tier 2 team. And if the front office and the coaching staff don't realize that, there's going to have to be changes because it's their own doing that has depleted this roster. And you're not going to get rid of Josh Allen's contract. So unless you find a way to kind of switch up the scheme or switch up some of the players on this roster, it's not going to get better. And I'll tell you the Waddle news, the fact that they leaked that, it tells me 100% the Bills know that they need to take a shot at a number 1 receiver or a highly touted rookie. The question is, will Brandon Beane be the one making the move, or will it be somebody else?
Yeah. AJ, before you jump in here, Josh Allen, per Next Gen Stats from our friend Carl Jones, Josh Allen's average time to throw was 3.53 seconds today against the Dolphins, longest time to throw of his career since 2018.
Tells you how bad the receivers are, brother.
Yep. Maybe it might have been that one scramble. Might have upped the average a little bit. That was like 19 seconds. It felt like he was running all over. I've never, it's funny to watch a quarterback literally turn his back to the defense. But if Josh Allen's doing it, I have faith that he's going to figure something out. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, even watching, it's funny because you posted on from Pay the Bills the Seattle game a couple years ago, and like. When 2020, not a couple of 2020, when he like just kind of broke out and like just like I just want you to like watching him now like trying to get through his reads. He just looks so much like sugar high, you know what I mean? Like rookie year, like just not trusting anything, not comfortable, not believing anyone's going to get open, has to run around. Against Seattle in 2020, he looked so poised. He got through his reads. If his first read wasn't there, his second read was there. Gabe Davis was getting open. Diggs was getting open. They were just so much. It just looked so much easier, and it just looked so hard for this Bills offense. And again, who knows what's going to happen down the stretch? Like I think we all agree that they could turn this around, or they could, like Jake said, go 1-4 over the next 5. We really don't know. They could look great against Tampa next week and blow them out of the water right at home, and we're having a different conversation. But I think I'm glad we're finally past the point where we're like using the excuses of like the Bills are just beating themselves, or like I'm sick of that narrative because we say it every year, but then the same things come back to haunt us when it matters. So I think at the end of the day, the Bills are going to have to hope Josh Palmer can come back and bring us, some sense of ability to separate on the outside for this team is an X receiver. And I think that they're going to need Dalton Kincaid to be healthy sooner rather than later, and hope he stays healthy. Because without them, Elijah Moore not only was the end around bad, I don't know why that play's still in the playbook. It doesn't work. He's not a gadget guy. But the 5-yard out route or hitch route that he ran on the outside, where he just basically just ran out of bounds when I thought he could have cut up field and got extra yardage, where he just kind of gave up on the play. Very uninspiring from Elijah Moore. So I think he's just like Mike said before the year. He's god awful. He's terrible. He stinks. The dude is useless, in my opinion. Curtis Samuel. Again, same thing. Like, he's just, what has he done? What, kickoff returns? Like, I don't, there's nothing, whether it's Joe Brady, Josh Allen, the receiver, there's nothing's clicking right now. They just seem lost. And again, you look up top to Brandon Beane, and I think a lot of, Sean McDermott too, I think his philosophy was complementary football. But like Jake said a couple of weeks ago, and what we've been saying is I think they've went too far in that direction. They've kind of neglected the passing game because they think they have this superhuman quarterback that can do whatever he wants with whoever they have, right? Like they think he can do whatever he wants with whoever they have, when that's not the case. They need guys. You need guys. Even, teams, not many teams that have success don't have guys. And this is like the worst. Like I said, bottom 10. Without Palmer, this is the worst wide receiver room in the NFL, in my opinion. Like these guys, Terrell Shavers, Elijah Moore, Keon Coleman, and Curtis Samuel. Like I don't know, man. It's frustrating. It does feel like the regime has failed Allen more than Allen's failed the regime, obviously. But I think it's, again, complacency. I think you guys hit the nail on the head with that. Like, they're not changing a lot of things up. It's a lot of the same old. I think mentally, Josh is out there. Josh knows that McDermott's the head coach still. That's still in his mind, right? Like, it's just that's doing that same thing over and over again. It gets to a point where there's a reason no quarterback high coaching tandem has won a Super Bowl after a certain amount of years together. And I think we're seeing why, in a sense, because it just feels like it's the same old story and it's going to end the same way. And that's where I'm at. It's just where I'm at.
It might end in a worse way. It might end with a wild card
loss.
Well,
it might have to. If they want, it might have to.
It would be ironic if, like, somehow they end up as a wild card. They make the run. They do, like, they pull magic. They win a Super Bowl. But because
that's why I'm saying all this.
But then they keep everybody. They keep everybody in Buffalo, and then like next year they go like 7-10, and then they go 6-11 because they had one wild card run. So then they sacrifice the last 4 years of Allen with beating McDermott, or they fire them this year after like losing in a wild card round, and the new people come in and they do the same exact thing. Like they win 13-14 and they lose in the AFC Championship every single year. It's just, oh God, it's frustrating. I don't know if there's a simple answer to this. Like, it's
like with Palmer and Kincaid back, it's not going to get.
This is the thing. There's Kincaid and Palmer. They're like, Kincaid's good. Kincaid is really good. Like, let's be real. Like,
besides the drop, yeah.
And there was rain did play at a factor. He probably should have worn the gloves, but I get why he took them off. Like, Palmer's a Band-Aid. Kincaid, he can help out a little bit. But like, there's nothing that's going to instantaneously make this team magical.
They don't have it in the roster.
They're either going to get lucky and find a way to pull out close games, or they're not. I think going forward, the other part, just like there's no easy button with their pass game, there's no easy button for how they should address their front office and coaching staff, because this is the issue. Josh is going to be 30 next year. So you have to kind of plan for, like, what is Josh going to be like from 30 to 35? Is he going to still be the same guy the next couple of years? Or is there going to be ways that you have to adapt his game? So you need to have a coach that's going to be wary of that and be able to build in a front office that's going to build properly around that. And I guess my concern is this. When you had so much success over a decade period like the Bills have, there's going to be this basically they're going to be afraid to move on, because if they make a bold move and it works out and it backfires on them, it's going to look really bad, and they're going to pay the price. It's a safe move to keep all of these guys around, especially when your owner owns another team that's been accused of making too many moves at head coach and constantly falls short. But I think at this point, you're getting to the time where you kind of have to make that move to just say, like, we have to save it. Like we have to go for it while we still have Josh Allen in his prime. And if it falls flat on our face, like so be it. We weren't winning championships anyway. So I would say I was team. I didn't need another offensive-minded head coach like for a long time. Like I would have always said, like the offense is going to do its thing, bring in a Belichick and take care of the defense. If there was a Ben Johnson-esque type coach, or if there was, and I know Ben Johnson, he likes to run the ball too. So I'm not saying like I need a heavy passer, but like I would take a chance on a young offensive mind and hope that they can save the next 5 years of Josh Allen. And you know what? The defense is up and down on a weekly basis. So be it. I don't give a crap anymore. What they're doing to Josh Allen is disgusting. Even if I'm a fan of complimentary football, it's disgusting what's happening right now. They're making an MVP quarterback fight for his life during every game. And I can't say it's Andrew Luck because Andrew Luck had no protection, but towards the end of Andrew Luck's days, and I covered that Colts team a teeny bit in Indiana. It just felt like, oh my God, we're wasting a generational quarterback. And then eventually he had enough and he walked away. And I'm not saying Josh Allen's going to do that, but like I'm starting to get to that point where it's like we're wasting a generational period out of Josh Allen, and they need to take advantage of it. And AJ, I know you're going to be like, oh my God, Mike, I've been saying this for the last year. The last year, they were having success still doing what they were doing. It's a drop off from what they were doing a year ago. It was still working at that point. Now it's not. And now that they're not being able to adjust it, you have to make a change.
AJ, you're muted.
Sorry, I was saying it. I mean, it's still they scored 20 on a defense allowed 16 like 8 days ago. So like again, it's hard to like again. I guess I was earlier, but like the same thing. Like it's kind of it's hard to really. Like when did it really happen? Like I don't know. They're still kind of scoring not an elite rate anymore. Maybe this lowered their points per game, but overall they're still a top 5 unit offensively. Crazy stat from Adam from Cover One, which I think is really really telling. Josh Allen had a 70% completion percentage, 2 passing touchdowns, and the highest rate of plays of any quarterback that went for 20-plus yards at 16.3% of his dropbacks. He also finished the day ranked 3rd in EPA per dropback. They are failing around him. So, like that really – I know it's a lot of, like, in the second half they were down. They had to throw the ball. And there was, he had some bad turnovers in there. And, again, I think those were very costly. And I'm not saying it's not Josh Allen's fault. But my point the whole time has been, like, Josh Allen, as great as you are as a player, I'll say it this way: as great as you are as a player, you still have to put that player in position to succeed. And I do not feel like the Bills have put Josh Allen, and I know you guys just kind of talked about this, but in a position to succeed. And that's again, I think there's more nuance to that. I think there are times where Josh Allen does make the boneheaded play or does not make the right read. But again, we live in a world where we feel like Josh Allen has to play perfect to go on a run and make a Super Bowl and win it. So I think you're already putting him in an unfair, unrealistic expectation for a quarterback that has proven to be one of the best in football. Drake May is the MVP favorite, by the way, now on Polymarket. But yeah, I don't know. And now the Patriots are coming, Mike. Like you were right. You were ahead on that. Like the Patriots are for real. They're going to be, I really do think they're for real. I think they're very well coached. I think they have the best coach in the division. And I think Drake May is, really ascending into like a top 5, top 6 quarterback. We'll see how he can respond down the stretch and into November or into his third year after this year. But I mean, New England's looking really good. The years of the AFC East, like Mike said, they're dwindling. And I really think I haven't looked at the odds, Mike. I don't know if you have on FanDuel, but I'm sure the Bills are at least plus 200.
We got to be the underdogs now. If anything, this needs to be the pressure that gets Terry Pegula to make a change. Like you had a 5-year window. You had no competition outside of Tua, like a kind of like middle, like good Miami team, not great Miami team. But like the Patriots look like they're about to be great again in the very near future. They have a quarterback that is the MVP favorite right now in his second season. It's only going to get worse. Like they're going to get more confidence. They're going to get better, and they're going to be harder to play against. I think now more than ever, this is you've spent a decade trying to do it one way. It hasn't worked out. Pull the trigger. Give yourself a chance, because you need to give yourself that guy that can go head to head with Drake May and Vrabel. And I don't think the way it's currently set up is going to work out. And you know what? I would have loved Vrabel to be the head coach. I would have loved a lot of these other guys to be the head coach. I think this conversation with a few more losses, if they end 10-7, you probably have to fire them with any playoff loss. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if Terry Pegula has it in him to do what's necessary, but if people think it's bad with Bills Mafia right now with our anger with what's happening with the trade deadline and everything, it's going to get really bad if 2 years from now the Patriots have won the division back-to-back years and Vrabel has a Super Bowl ring and Drake May has an MVP, because then it's going to really feel like it's over. And if the Patriots get their next Super Bowl ring with Drake May before the Bills get one with Josh Allen, oh my goodness. Just like at that point, I give up on being a Buffalo sports fan. I'll be done with the Sabres. I'll be done with the Bills. I'll just be watching, I don't know, I'll watch ECC football. I'll watch them. I don't know. I'll give up at that point.
Can I do a quiz real quick for you guys? Super Bowl odds right now. You don't have to give me like the exact number, but I want what you think the top 5 are on Super Bowl odds right now. By the way, Seattle's up 28-0 on.
And they're actually it's first and goal.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp just went for a big game. Yeah, Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl. Darnold's going to get a Super Bowl before Josh Allen. Yeah, give me your top 5 Super Bowl odd winners in order. Maybe not in order, but in order.
Who we think or who is?
Who we think is. Okay.
FanDuel.
Casey's probably number 1.
Casey's won at plus 550.
I'm guessing the Rams.
Rams are 5th at plus 900. So that's
okay.
Good. Seahawks need to be one of them.
Seahawks are plus 1,000. They might move up after their win today, though.
Yeah, they might move up after this. The Eagles.
The Eagles are plus 750. They're second.
The Bills are still there, I bet.
Bills are plus 800. They're tied for third with Detroit. Division. Bills plus 160. Patriots minus 195.
The Bills are now.
And Poly market 61% for New England in the division, 31% for Buffalo. So
Chiefs are still the favorite in the West at plus 125.
If they don't win the division this year, and like honestly, if you're a Bills fan, you might at this point, if you don't have any hopes for the playoffs, I bet you're going to start having some Bills fans start rooting against the team, just hoping that they miss it, just so they can get the changes they want.
Yeah.
No, like
that's what fans do. Yeah, that's what
you might start seeing some of that.
People wanted to lose the KC last week because they're like, listen, if we beat them, then we're not winning.
It would be such a Buffalo thing to happen. And I do have to go in 2 minutes. It would be such a Buffalo thing to happen for the Bills to miss the playoffs a year. There's no Burrow, possibly no Lamar, and maybe something happens with the Chiefs where they go like 10-7 and the Chiefs are like a 6 seed. Like that would be the Billsiest thing in the world, to where you have the easiest path you ever would have had, but because you didn't make a move to properly address receiver in the offseason, you screwed the one thing your team was good at. And I'll say this, like I am happy that like Bean was trying to get a receiver, try to make some trades. But like, how did he not like? You know what I'm more mad about? Like, I'm more mad, not that he hasn't traded for a receiver the last couple of years, but that, like, when it's been obvious they've needed to get, like, a separator or get a higher-end receiver, that, like, Keon is the guy that he thought was the guy that would fix the offense. There's so many guys that he could have gotten the last 2 years. And even if he didn't believe in Xavier Worthy, he could have gotten McConkey. He could have gone so many different directions.
Traded up for BTJ.
Trade up for Brian Thomas Jr. He could have done so many things. Instead, he doubled down on it. And while I do understand and I do respect where he was coming from, because I do get the logic of it, it failed this team. And it doesn't matter if he had sound logic. I think Bean normally does have sound logic. Execution and results are all that matter in the National Football League, and he deserves to get fired if this doesn't result in a bigger season.
Sneaky Joe just tweets, sorry. Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl and Drake May winning MVP in the same year.
We might see a Patriots-Seahawks Super Bowl rematch.
Oh, man.
That all sounds disgusting. I'll leave us with this. Bills line left tackle, Deion Dawkins. Quote, they played harder than us. Simple as that.
Oh, cool, Deion. Love that.
Josh Allen after the game. It's on me.
I hate them all. Yep.
Great, guys. Great. Like
simple as that. Harder than
simple
us.
Simple as that.
But 2-7 Miami team. Oh, dude. All right. Yeah, we got to go.
Can't wait to talk about
I will say the one thing about the Miami thing is like you're not going to beat a team like 15 times in a row. So they were going to have to lose one of these.
They were due.
They were due.
They'll turn around next
Jake, you're trying to
That's my optimism.
You're trying to end on a positive. Stop it. No, they weren't due.
That's
the
my
Patriots
optimism.
beat us like 21. Like they beat us like 15 in a row. Stop it.
All right. I will not be optimistic the rest of the night on behalf of on Mike Bunt's orders. So just expect me to
if Bunt's not your
negativity on my Twitter the rest of the night. But we paid the bills here. Shout out to our sponsor, Picasso Pizza. Thank you, Mike Bundt. Thank you, Ajay Zapolsky, for joining along with me, Jake Micah here. We'll be back on Tuesday. Who knows what this is going to look like over the next 2 days here from the fan base, but we'll be in it together. And then next week, a game against Tampa at home at 1:00 it'll be must watch for everybody around the nation, honestly, because I imagine we're gonna hear some punditry tomorrow about the Buffalo Bills that people are.
They're gonna get bashed, man. They're gonna get bashed.
Yeah,
and I love every second of it. I'll eat it up.
All right. As always, though, go Bills.